Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. The water you drink has probably been inside of someone or something else. Constipation can make you vomit poop. A teratoma is a rare type of tumor that can grow hair, teeth, bones, intestines, and more. There is a bloody skeleton living inside of you. Bone dust smells like Cool Ranch Doritos. This is what the MRI of a baby looks like. Holy shit. There's a condition known as fatal insomnia where one day you can't go to sleep and eventually you die because of this lack of sleep. You know that moment when you're about to fall asleep and suddenly you flinch because you feel like you're falling? This is actually known as a hypnic jerk, and it alerts your body that you're dying, or at least thinks that you're dying. If you decapitate someone, their head will remain conscious for 15 to 20 seconds, which is long enough for them to realize what you did to them. Humans are bioluminescent, meaning that we glow in the dark, but our eyes are just too weak to see it.
I have another Ouija board story time. I highly suggest you put your AirPods on or headphones, whatever you have. I have no business filming this in my house, but the car was way too hot and I just couldn't bear it. This story was submitted by Maria. I went ahead and tagged her down below. So when Maria was about 12 years old, her and her sister used to play with a homemade Ouija board. Her main purpose of doing this was for her to connect with her grandfather who had passed away. Maria never got to meet him, so she thought what better way to get to know him than contacting him through a Ouija board. As time went on, the Ouija board became an obsession for Maria and her sister. For whatever reason, they could not stop playing with it. They just always felt the need to constantly be on the board. They soon realized that the person they had contacted was not her grandfather, that it was in fact a D word. They actually found out the name of this D word, which I'll put right here. Don't ever say this word out loud, trust me. He is known as one of the most controlling D words in Ouija board history. But back to the story. One night, Maria and her sister were playing with the board and they had a picture of her grandfather, right next to them. When out of nowhere, Maria felt a hand on her back. She quickly got excited and said, "We did it, we finally contacted Grandpa," not realizing that it was actually putting his hand on her back. Later that night, after Maria went to bed, she got woken up by this D word jumping on top of her and trying to choke her. She woke up sweating and crying. She went and woke her sister up, and her sister did her best to try to calm her down. The very next day, Maria went to her grandmother's house and took the homemade Ouija board with her. As soon as she got to her grandmother's house, she dug a hole in the backyard and buried the Ouija board, hoping that would be the end of it. But she was wrong. 1 week after she did this, her parents came home crying, telling her that the grandmother had passed away in her sleep due to a Maria was stunned when she heard the news and blamed herself because had she not wanted to contact her grandfather, none of this would have happened. They ended up laying her grandmother to rest and did not perform an autopsy due to the fact that she was already of age. She was 88 years old. Regardless of this, Maria states that her grandmother was extremely healthy for her age. After the funeral, Maria tried to put it in the back of her head until she went to her grandmother's room and found the Ouija board she had buried in the backyard under her grandmother's bed.
This video might be proof that reptilians do live among us.
Forces and protecting the population and minimizing civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency doctrine. Civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency doctrine.
She straight up just shapeshifted on live TV, folks! Maybe the lady on the plane was being real. If you want more video proof, then check out this video on my YouTube channel, link in bio.
Have you ever wondered how accurate police sketches are? Well, this sketch was actually pulled from someone's subconscious during hypnotherapy, so let's find out. In 1960, 4 teens were camping in Finland, and the last thing that this guy remembers was falling asleep. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and he learned that he and his friends were attacked through the tent and that none of his friends had survived. The only thing was that teen, Nils Gustafsson, didn't remember a thing after falling asleep that night. And honestly, that caused a lot of people to think he was responsible for his friends' deaths. So Nils goes to hypnotherapy to see if he can recall anything from that night, and during hypnosis, he starts remembering a face. This is what he described to the hypnotherapist as the person who attacked him and his friends that night. And while this is happening, this man gets admitted to the hospital. He has splotches of red all over his clothes, and the nurses said it looked like he had been running through the woods. And I'm sure you probably see it, but this caused him to be the lead suspect. I cover the whole story this week on the podcast, which has so many twists and turns, including what this guy has to do with the story, so make sure you check it out.
Detectives said they have never seen anything like this case. When Charles and Catherine Romer, a very wealthy couple from New York, checked into a Holiday Inn in Brunswick, Georgia in April 1980, everything was per usual. The couple had just spent their winter in Miami, Florida, as they did every year, and were on their way home to New York. Charles and Catherine had made this trip dozens of times. Typically, they would break up the long drive into about 4 days, stopping along the way. The couple always stuck to a routine, staying at this very same hotel every single trip back home. But this time, things would take a very dark turn. After checking into that hotel room in Georgia, the couple disappeared. They vanished, along with their car, a customized 1978 Lincoln Continental. Even worse, no one realized they were missing for days. By the time they did, no one had seen or heard from the Romers since they had checked into the hotel. Despite launching the largest search in the history of southern Georgia, not a single trace of the couple could be found. Detectives and the family theorized they'd been victims of a robbery gone wrong, a random crime, or had been followed by someone that they knew. Charles was a wealthy oil executive. Was this connected to his work? Possibly, but many of the clues and much of the evidence from the case directly contradicts this theory, as there was over $500,000 worth of Catherine's jewelry left untouched inside the hotel room. This case is one that has left authorities completely baffled for years, and is truly one of the most haunting and perplexing disappearances. What happened to the Romers after they checked into that hotel room? How do not one but two people disappear off the face of the planet? And are the nearby murders of another wealthy oil executive and his wife somehow connected to the Romers' disappearance? Or just a strange coincidence? This is Avery After Dark, and I'm your host, Avery Ross.
So I have another brujeria story time. This one has to do with an evil grandmother. The person who submitted this wants to remain anonymous. For the sake of the story, let's call her Mary. So growing up, Mary's grandmother was an evil woman. Mary never really considered her her grandmother. Her dad used to work really hard and would give his mom, the grandmother, most of his paycheck. He would only end up with a little bit left for him. Once he met Mary's mom, that stopped because he now had a family to provide for. The evil grandmother obviously did not like this, and from that point forward, she would treat Mary's mom, Mary, and her siblings like crap. At the age of 52, Mary's father became ill. Due to his illness, he spent a really long time at the hospital. It got to the point that when Mary went to visit him, he didn't even recognize his own daughter. A short time later, her dad ended up actually passing away. Just when they're in the process of grieving the loss of her father, the evil witch grandmother calls Mary's mom and tells her that she needs to give her everything. The house, the cars, whatever money was left over. Mary's mother pretty much told her to F off, but the witch grandmother insisted that before he had passed, he had signed something stating that all his property and belongings would go to them in the event that he passed away. There's no way none of that is true, because by the time Mary's father passed away, he was no longer coherent, let alone even able to sign any papers or give anything away. Now fast forward to Mary's mom passing away. Once Mary's mom passed away, Mary ended up inheriting the home and everything else. This home was located in the middle of nowhere. Mary decided that she was just gonna clean it up and sell it and kind of move on with her life. I'm home now. So one Saturday, Mary was busy at the home packing it up, moving all of the things into her new home. As it started to get late, she had made her last trip to the moving truck and decided to call it a night. At about 9 p.m., she laid in bed when she realized that she had forgotten her charger that was inside of her car, parked right in front of the house near the locked gate. As she's making her way towards her car, about to step off the porch, she hears this loud screaming, screeching sound, so loud that it sounded like a half woman, half bird. Mary quickly turned around expecting to see like a humanoid looking thing standing there, but there was no one. She said it sounded like the screaming from the old woman in the movie called Drag Me to Hell. Mary was so scared that she started to walk backwards towards her car, trying to scan the whole area, making sure that she wasn't going crazy. But the fear, the utter fear, and then trembling and just chills that she couldn't explain were overcoming her whole body. She ended up locking herself in her car and just staying there trying to rationalize what just happened. After talking to her sister about it, they came to the conclusion that that was her witch grandmother, angry because she never got what she wanted.
So Woodrow was driving his Ford truck on I-77 from Marietta, Ohio, heading to his home in Mineral Well, West Virginia. Woodrow was just your average person. He was a sewing machine salesman. He was leaving work and just heading home to relax, eventually coming to a complete stop. He was about 8 to 10 feet from the ship. He's on the highway by himself in the middle of the night. Poof, a door opens from the ship. He described this figure looking like a man, so the humanoid introduced himself as Ingrid Colt. I think that's how you pronounce it. He described himself as a searcher. Searcher for what? A person? A thing? A planet?
We could be oceans, never drifting apart. We could be endless, flow through my heart. If you wanna ride my waves, if you wanna ride my waves.
Was lost in highs, pushing you aside. I couldn't let you back in, but now I'm ready to fix all those careless slips, wishing we could start rebuilding. Don't wanna let you go, don't wanna be alone, 'cause baby you know I miss